right, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you all for being here on this beautiful day in March. Happens to be Bob's birthday. We're going to call to
and Tim's tomorrow.
And Tim's tomorrow. We're going to call to order the Thursday, March 28th, 2019 Board of Education meeting, and Alan's going to call a roll. Or I guess before we do that, we're going to have Ms. Folson and Butterfield. Excuse me, almost skipped through that. That would not have been good for you guys. Go ahead and come forward and thank you, Ms. Folson.
I'll tell you a little bit about these girls, and then I'll let them introduce themselves. This group of girls will be joining their friends in our structured learning class who will be participating in Special Olympics next month. And at the Special Olympics, they will be supporting, cheering for, and enjoying the day with our athletes. But this is not just a one-time get-together between the groups. These girls have made special friendships with the SLC kiddos, and they are with them at breakfast and at recess and other times during the day. So when I invited them, I told their parents I was just really impressed and excited about their sweet spirits and their being servant leaders. So I'll let you introduce yourselves.
Hi, I'm Zoe Warren, and I'm in 4th grade.
Hi, I'm Lily Mickish, and I'm in 4th grade.
Hi, my name is Keaton Romine, and I'm in 4th grade.
Hi, I'm Ella Curzon, and I'm in 4th grade.
Hi, my name is Catherine Judd, and I'm in 4th grade.
Hi, my name is Lena Masadi, and I'm in 4th grade. Please stand for the pledge.
All right, good job. All right, now we're going to do roll call. Thank you, Alan.
Justin Eichmann.
Here.
Tracy Farah.
Here.
Nika Weitzman.
Here.
Tim Hudson.
Here.
Bob Moranto.
Here.
Megan Hurley.
Here.
Keaton Smith.
Here.
We have some interesting ones tonight on the recognition agenda. First, you may have read something about this. This McNair 5th grader has been spearheading an effort to have the alligator gar named the state fish of Arkansas.
Yes.
Will Henry Foster please come forward?
Cool.
He recently received the Youth Challenger Award from the Arkansans for gifted and talented education in recognition of his efforts, and it is now law, is it not, in Arkansas?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Absolutely.
Thing for you here. I love your passion and the originality of your passion too. I think it's so fun to have something that not everybody has to say. It's really cool. Thanks for bringing your effort to Fayetteville Public Schools and to the state of Arkansas. The Fayetteville Public School District is pleased to recognize and honor Henry Foster for receiving the 2019 Youth Challenger Award from the Arkansans for gifted and talented education. Your initiative in getting the alligator gar officially named the state fish of Arkansas shows what creativity, drive, and determination can accomplish. We are confident that we will see many more examples of your great ideas and hard work in coming years. Please accept our sincere congratulations.
If y'all want to come around here so we can get the picture too. There we go. Yeah, you stand right there by her. There you go. Perfect. There you go. Here, I'll step out of the way.
Okay, sorry. On the picture. Got it.
a lot of academic achievers are recognized at this meeting. And one that's become a tradition almost every year is recognizing a perfect ACT score. And we have 3 current students at Fayetteville High School who have made the best score possible on the ACT exam. Kexin Ming, would you please come forward? Looking over here. She is a senior at Fayetteville High School. You want to tell us about your college plans?
Me? Okay. I'm still waiting on some decisions to come out in like an hour today, I think. Yeah, so I was named a Bodenhammer Fellow from the U of A.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, and I've received some other offers as well.
Absolutely. So, Mr. Smith.
Well, congratulations, Kexin. I've only been here a short while. I feel like you may have been to more school board meetings than I have. So your very impressive performance on the ACT exam places you among the highest performance students at FHS and in the nation. I looked it up, and it's not the top 1%, it's the top 0.14% based on the 2017 numbers. So very impressive. We look forward to following your collegiate career with great pride. Please accept our sincere congratulations. Thank you.
All right.
Good luck tonight.
A lot of our awards have had a science flair this semester, and we'll continue that. Would Fayetteville High School students Alice Kai and Kaushik Sampath please come forward? You can stay right up in front like they did, okay? Alice and Kaushik recently took first and second place, respectively, at the 2018 Northwest Arkansas Regional Science and Engineering Fair that was sponsored by the University of Arkansas. They will represent Arkansas at the International Science Fair in Phoenix in May. Dr. Murrieta.
This is so cool. I mean, it's a huge honor. It represents a huge amount of work, represents a lot of stuff your teachers did. So I'm going to put you on the spot. Can you each name one teacher who helped a whole lot?
Hang on a second.
Oh. Mark Reef. Right.
Mark Reef.
Since he is in the room, that is the politically correct answer, and I'm sure they're the right one too. So, thank you. I'm just so impressed, and we have so many great science teachers and so many students who work so hard, and I'm just really glad to be able to do this. Your performance is a direct reflection of your outstanding science knowledge and skills, plus the ability to apply and demonstrate them. We are also so very pleased that we'll be competing for FHS again next year, so I can't ask you your college plans. Best of luck at the International Science Fair. Please accept our very proud congratulations.
There we go. Yeah. Yeah, here we go. Here we go. Yeah, both of them. That's fine. That's fine, absolutely. And up here. Okay. And the Above and Beyond Awards that are presented by the Education Committee of the Fayetteville Chamber of Commerce each month. Here to do the honors is Kirby Harris.
Our March honoree is Hadley Williams. If you will join us up front. Hadley is a special education teacher at Vandergrift Elementary. One of Hadley's colleagues wrote the following: Hadley went above and beyond to make our Diverse Abilities Day of Learning about people with special learning disabilities a wonderful day of insight and education for our students, staff, and community. She put in many tireless hours to prepare for this event, which shows her passion for her students and her heart for all people. I think Hadley Williams deserves special recognition for her hard work. A second nomination reads, Hadley is not only a fantastic special education teacher who devotes so much of her time and generosity to her students, but she goes above and beyond for our staff and students who are not hers. She collaborates with the teachers to improve classroom behaviors, provides teachers with support for students who may be struggling academically, and gives up her own lunch just to help students and her team. Hadley even does car duty every morning just so the drop-off line moves more efficiently. She recently headed up the Diverse Abilities Day at our school, where she worked hours and hours just to pull off one of the greatest days ever for our school. She constantly thinks of others, puts herself last, and is one of the most selfless people I know. Congratulations.
Got it. Mr. Eichmann.
Okay. I've not received any citizen participation. Looking at Alan, he hasn't either. So we're going to go ahead and move on to board member liaison reports. And I'm going to skip over the Public Education Foundation one for right now and save my powder for next month. And so we're going to move over to Tim Hudson in the legislature in adult education.
Yes, the good news is the legislature only has maybe another 10 days ahead of it, so they're coming down the home stretch. I was not in town for the last adult ed board meeting. Dr. Weber did attend, and I was going to share just a couple of things, highlights from that meeting that were shared with me. Let me get back to it here. Yes, in early March, representatives from the Department of Workforce Services in Fayetteville spoke to the program students about those services and opportunities provided by that organization to help our adult ed learners who are looking to get back into the workforce. Dr. Cornelius is working with Alan Wilburn on marketing and promotional activities on behalf of adult education to reach beyond just our district. We actually do serve folks from throughout the region through adult ed. 2019 spring community education classes are off to a great start. Such things as tap dancing, which I have not signed up for, dog obedience, Italian language courses, landscape design, and those are based on demand and facility capabilities, and so they're looking to potentially add new classes. The GED Adult Ed Graduation takes place on Tuesday, May 21st at 7 o'clock at the Fayetteville High School Performing Arts Center. So most of us have attended that a time or two, and is always a highlight. Back to the legislature, I know I think I sent an alert that came from one of the advocacy groups. The one I'll just call your attention to right now is Senate Bill 539. ASBA has made its opposition to this bill very well known. It is an effort to divert funds that would be going to public schools to support private K through 12 education. Among other things, it could pay for tuition and fees at private schools, online courses and tutoring services. It also amends the ability for students who are attending private schools to attend courses at public schools. And a student who doesn't receive the scholarship for the private school would have to have the public school course provided at no cost to the student. Which, at least in ASBA's view, and mine perhaps as well, it is taking public tax dollars to subsidize private education. Nothing against private education, but using taxpayer dollars for it, in my personal opinion, ASBA's is not the way to go with taxpayer dollars. It came up unexpectedly to the Senate Education Committee on Wednesday. I did not look to see if it had actually got onto the floor today or not. So that's Senate Bill 539. There are a lot of others that I could talk about, but I will leave it at that.
All right. Next we have Bob Murrieta with the Academic Advisory Committee.
Hey, thanks so much. It's been so, I know it sounds weird, it's been so exciting and fun to work on the Academic Advisory Committee with Steve Weaver and Michelle Hayward and others of his staff, and they've done such a great job. We are having our last meeting of the year, April 4th. In fact, if somebody wants to come, feel free to talk to us anytime. I usually meet at 6:30 in the old Happy Hollow, and we've consistently gotten 20 to 25 parents to attend. We've had some really great discussions, and I think bounced around some very good ideas. Also want to mention, we gave the Science Awards tonight. It's really neat, something I'm very excited about. I'm always very excited about closing the achievement gap, but you can't really close the achievement gap unless you know what you're trying to close, and something that we're doing here that very few districts do. Our teachers are building the science curriculum to know what kids need to know at what grades, so it'll be transparent. People will know, teachers know what they need to do. If you don't do that, honestly, rich kids tend to get it at home and poor kids don't, which is a huge problem. So I'm really excited. In April, there will be a report before the board. It was tough sledding for a while, but after a lot of work, the science teachers, led by Dr. Weber and others, have fashioned together, they seem to be agreeing on what materials that they need for this. And so we'll have a report then. And I think really good things are gonna come out of it. I think it's one of those things that it takes years, it takes a while, but it's really important. And I think the fact that the staff are building it means that they'll have ownership of implementing it. So I think that's about all for me.
Okay, thank you, Bob. And finally over to Keaton Smith for Liaison with City of Fayetteville.
Yeah, the big news from the city front is the upcoming bond issuance vote on April 9th. And there are 10 different items to vote for. And so you can pick any one you want to. If you don't vote for the first one, then it's a no on all of them. But the item of particular note in relation to the school district is that there's money in the bond issuance for parks, which would include the purchase of Lewis Fields that we've allocated funds for as well. So. In addition, the other items are transportation, parks, trails, police, fire, some of the things you might expect from city services, and of course it's a renewal of an existing bond issuance, not a tax increase.
Great. All right. Well, thank you very much. And with that, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Dr. Colbert for Superintendent's report.
Thank you, President Eichmann. Just a few things. One is, as you know, we're getting ready to bring the year to a close, and we've got a lot of things going on, and just need to bring your attention to one event that is coming up real soon, which will be April the 9th, which will be the 2019 Outstanding Volunteer Banquet, the time for us to recognize all those outstanding volunteers who have given to the district, that we realize that they really are very important to us, so we'd like to take the time out to recognize them. So we ask that you be with us on April the 9th at 7 p.m. at the Fayetteville High School cafeteria. Then also, I'd like to do a shout out to Woodland and Fayetteville High School yearbook. They have received national awards lately, so hopefully we have them here soon to be recognized. But I just wanted to say congratulations to both of those schools and the sponsor for a job well done. As you know, that we had the Eklund company in to do the workplace culture survey. We have received the results, and the schools are working through those. And then they have really found some good things that have been happening within the buildings, and also some things that we need to work on. So the next step is for each of the buildings and schools to develop a plan of action to address those certain areas. So we're kind of excited about getting that feedback so that we can make sure that we do create an environment where everyone feels safe and learning can take place. As Mrs. Falcon mentioned, that Special Olympics is coming up April the 19th. We are hosting it here in Fayetteville at the FHS track field near Ramey. So I'm asking the board to come out. I've asked the Special Olympics board to allow you all to present the awards to the winners on that day. So it's going to take place from 9 until 3 for the school-age kids. And we have McNair, Ramey, Root, Butterfield, Vandergrift, and Happy Hollow participating. So it's going to be a great day. I ask that you all come out and help recognize those winners on that day. And so that would be from, like I said, from 9 until 3 for the school-age students, and we do have adults if you'd like to stay until from 3:30 until 7:30, that'll be fine too. So really would love to have you there cheering them on. And then the last thing is that, you know, April through May is testing day. And so from April the 9th through May the 10th, the teachers and students will be taking the ACT expired test, and so they're preparing and be ready to do that. So it's going to be a busy month between now and the end of school. So a lot of things happening, so we really appreciate all the hard work that the teachers are doing and preparing all the students and getting ready them for the ACT expired.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. So we'll go ahead and move on over to the consent agenda. We do have a slip sheet, so at this time I can entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda with the slip sheet, or we can pull an individual item out for consideration if necessary.
So moved to accept the slip sheet.
The consent agenda with the slip sheet.
Consent agenda. Yeah.
Okay, we have a motion?
Second.
All right, motion is second. Any discussion from the board? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. Okay, motion passes 7-0. And next up we have an update from Leslie Merritt on our Avid program. Avid. I always say Avid.
You'll know all about it when I finish. Okay, yes, I am Leslie Merritt. I'm the director of Avid and also response to intervention. And I would like to recognize we will be starting at the high school next year, and my high school elective teacher, Renee Cole, is in the back. The junior high teachers are actually at CAP, and they were hoping that the meeting would go longer so they could be here, but I'm sure you don't want that. Okay. But you do have a handout on your desk, and it explains a little bit about Avid. Avid was created in 1980 when a teacher in San Diego realized that she had students that were, intellectually capable of going to college, but had several different circumstances in their way to prevent them from getting there. And so today there's over 70,000 educators that are trained and over 2 million students worldwide. They're in the program. There are 5 districts in Arkansas that have Avid. Pulaski County is about to implement next year with all 24 schools will be Avid schools. And so the purpose of Avid, it does get these kids ready, but it also trains all of our educators to be more, it trains them to be more effective and engaging in instruction and allow collaboration in the classroom. It engages not just these kids in the Avid elective, but all faculty and students across all the whole building. It makes these students to be resilient, lifelong learners. So we teach them while they're in our building how to be successful in college and give them that academic support. And we increase the rigor. All of these students will be in a pre-AP or a pre-AP honors class at the high school with the goal of being in an AP or concurrent credit class their junior and senior year. And we want to create a college-going culture across all of our buildings so these students see this on a daily basis so they have ideas of where they can go to college in the future. Okay. So who is an Avid elective student? If you look at this image, these are Woodland and Ramey 8th graders, and we took them to the University of Arkansas at Fort Smith this fall. And so as part of the program, we do actually, it's not just enough to say, these are colleges in Arkansas. We take them, we give them an experience. If you would have seen the joy on their face, some of them, they've never, they haven't been in a school cafeteria. They had the experience. And so just seeing that moment and these kids thinking, I could be here in the future, that's what we do in this program. But Avid is made up of all demographics, all races, all socioeconomic classes. It mirrors our populations in our schools. But the one thing all of these kids have in common is they have been identified as having the ability to succeed in college, but they have one or more factors that are impeding this goal. My own son would have actually benefited from Avid. So this is not just, if you hear, oh, well, this is the Avid student. There is not a typical Avid student. So what is the Avid mission statement? This is the nationwide mission statement, and it very much mirrors what our district expects. The mission statement is to close the achievement gap by preparing all students for college success, or readiness success in a global society. And so what happens in the Avid elective? We actually have students, they learn organizational skill and study skills. Many students lack the organization to be prepared for in college. They work on critical thinking and they ask probing questions. They get academic help from peers and college tutors, and that's on a weekly basis. And then they participate in enrichment and in motivational activities that make them ready for college. So how do we do this to get them college ready? We actually teach them very specific academic and social skills not targeted in all classes. And then we teach them content-specific strategies, which I'll talk about further in a moment, with reading, writing, thinking, and speaking. And then we develop habits and skills. Some of these students are starting in 7th grade, so we will have time to, have these kids make these learning styles a habit before they graduate. And we provide the college and university exposure through the experience of going to college. We have guest speakers that come in, and we show them the different things throughout their career. We actually have a 6-year rotation starting in 7th grade of all the different colleges that these students will go to. So they'll go to one a semester. And so they will actually, by the time they're seniors, they'll be able to have some real critical conversations about what school is best for them. So what does the Avid classroom look like? This is a schedule. So on Monday and Wednesday, there is a national Avid curriculum that they do follow. Tuesday and Thursday, we'll actually have college students that come in and they work with groups, and it's a 1 to 7. They teach them how to become critical thinkers. It's not a one-on-one tutoring, but they're the facilitator in the group, and they're helping the kids to ask questions. The kids come prepared with problems they're having in their academic classes, so it helps them to become stronger students and learn to be self-sufficient and work in a group. And then Friday is it could be team building. We can look at the organization system is binders. They may look at that. We do field trips. We have motivational activities. So it's building not only the academic strength, but we want to make us like a social family. So many teachers I've talked to that have these kids, throughout their career in other districts. They said they're like a family. So that's one of the things that they have that, they want to stick with it, and it makes them a stronger student. Okay, so again, who is that Avid student? I really wanted to put faces with these kids. These are our 7th graders from Ramey and Woodland. The younger they are, we keep them closer to home. So we took them to NWAC. So real quick there and back. But allowing them to tour the campus and ask questions. We actually talk about scholarships, the things that you actually need to get into school. What are your ACT? I was in a classroom yesterday, and they were teaching kids how to calculate their GPA. These were 8th graders. So it's just some of the things, because we want these kids to realize how important it is for them to be be a strong student. Okay, so this is one of our Ramey students, and so this is our student profile. All of these students have academic potential. This is an enrichment. They have average to high test scores. Their GPA is 2.0 to 3.5. Of course, we have some kids with a 4 point, but the minimum is a 2.0. But college potential with support, we are the support. These kids may not have it at home. And sometimes, I even messed up my child's FAFSA, so I don't know if you have kids, but anyway. And so I'm thinking if these parents have never been to college, things like this, we will support these kids as they go, forward. And we want one of the most important things is a desire and determination to go to college. And they may be lacking a skill, but we're going to help them with that. A lot of our kids, nationally, they are typically the first in their family to attend college, but we currently have multiple students that either, we have some that are, their parents are college professors, they have, PhDs, so we run the gamut. We have parents that haven't graduated high school. So we are supporting all of these different students, but the one thing they have in common is they can achieve, they're going to achieve in a rigorous curriculum with support from the Avid elective class. Okay, so our Avid recruitment, the growth in Avid, looks like I've done miracles, but we started with 10 students. And so my growth for this year was 1,150%. I will never achieve that again. But anyway, we did go from, we had 10 students the year that I first took over to 115 this year. And then we've already finished our recruitment, and we have 165 students we've accepted. The one limiting thing is the number of spots. We actually have 35 students just Ramey alone on a wait list for 7th grade. It's just trying to get enough spots. So we have the number of students coming in, and we hope to have, you know, more sections in the future. So the high school will have we have a 9th and 10th grade section next year. We'll have 2. So the next year we'll add a 10th grade section, then an 11th grade section, and a 12th grade section. And so these students will have the chance to grow throughout. And that was on recommendation from the national program. And I'll give you a second to look at the numbers. Do you have any questions?
So when you talk about adding sections, just curious, you were saying that like it's a nonprofit organization, right? Is it Avid?
Yes.
Okay, so is it, you can't just add it at will, correct?
Yeah, we can. So we do pay a fee to join. It's just as far as like trying to figure out our schedules, and you know, we don't have full-time teachers that are dedicated to Avid, so we're trying to work it in with teachers who have an open spot.
So we could increase the number of sections.
Yes, we
have
can.
that capability to do that. Okay.
And like I said, at the high school, we were trying to figure out how to do the recruitment, and we think this is actually, in talking to other schools, because one of the things Avid does require is they're like, if you're going to do our program, we want fidelity. So we actually have a 36-page rubric that we follow, because they want to make sure that they said this is successful if you follow, you know, this protocol. We have to take a team from the school to training. And so they want to make sure that everyone on the team knows what it takes. And so with the fidelity of that, once we've done that, we can implement as many sections as we need. Okay.
So the sections are taught by existing teachers that have this Avid certification?
Yes. They actually attend the summer training, and they get trained to teach it.
How many do we have trained right now?
Renee will be, when she's trained this summer, we'll have 3.
Okay.
So we have 1 at Woodland, which they have 2 7th grade sections and an 8th grade section, and then we have 1 at Ramey, and we have 1 7th grade. Next year we'll have 2 8th grade sections there, and then we'll have 2 sections at the high school.
So your ability to kind of juggle that based on sign up is primarily limited by the number of teachers that are certified by.
Yeah, and all of our teachers right now are elective teachers, so it's based on trying to cover other sections as well. So it's a juggling game with electives.
I may be getting the cart ahead of the horse, but how do you choose the kids? Or how do they sign up? What is?
We have a criteria. First thing is I went to all the different middle schools. So I went to all the 6th grade and 7th grade teachers, and I said, here's our criteria. I gave them a rubric of what we were looking for. And I said, which kids, you know, would you recommend? And then we also could have parents recommend. We had students that could recommend themselves. So that's how we started. And so we actually sent letters to these students, and then we mailed them home, and then we actually sent them to the parents as well. And we actually had, I think I sent a little over 300 letters, and we had this year 202 that actually applied. And then from that, we do an interview process. We look at attendance, we look at grades, we look at Aspire scores, we look at behavior, we look at all of these things, and then the interview process. So it's multiple factors. We have a nationwide rubric that we use.
And what are some of the things on the rubric? That's part of the interview process, what you just listed. When you take it to the teachers and you ask them to identify kids, what are they looking for?
We look at the kids that have potential, so that may be struggling. And they may identify a student, like I said, my son would have been a great candidate. His Aspire scores were good, his grades were good, but he really struggled with organization, and that could get in the way of a student. So the teachers are just telling us, this kid has the potential. I know they could do more, but I feel like, you know, it may be a family situation or just some academic maturity that they see that the child needs.
What data do you collect to see how it's working? And it's kind of too new to be sure, but you know.
One of the things that and this is because this is one of the things we're just starting to collect. So I'm going to look at Aspire growth to see if these students, because I'll have theirs this year. So once we take Aspire this year, we'll see how much growth they've had compared to classmates. We're going to look at our retention rate. We had a fairly high retention rate. Kids that once you're in the program, you're automatically, as long as you want to continue, you keep a 2.0, and you meet the behavior criteria, you stay in the program. And so we started, the program at the high school will have 22 students that had it this current year at the 8th grade. And so
Are you going to track them after?
Yes, and Avid actually requires that. They require a lot of data. So it's not a problem when you look at, the number of kids that actually, the free and reduced numbers, migrants, ESL, SPED, GT, we look at all of that and see, we track these kids. So they'll actually be tracked all the way through their senior year. And then we see how many persist in college, because Avid wants to have that data. So it's just going to take us a while to get there, since we're only at 7th and 8th grade this year.
Are there any other potential measures of kind of the soft skills component of Avid? You mean persistent college, I would say, is a measure of that, but I'm just curious if they've come up with any other
most of it is, most of it's anecdotal data from other teachers, and they're like, I can see how this kid has matured this year, and some of the things that they're doing. We do require them to do focus note taking or Cornell notes. We do have binder checks to see that they're organized. So some of the skills, so they do actually get, they have weekly checks on some of these skills.
Yeah, I know some of that stuff's just really hard to quantify.
Yes, it is.
I confess I'm always kind of skeptical of programs. So I walked down the hall where we have a very good program evaluator who you probably know, and I said, well, this Avid thing, does this work? Are there studies on that? And this individual said, yeah, there are studies and it works really well. So that gives me some very good feeling about it. I'm going to ask kind of a flaky question. I think from everything I hear, this is really good. I've heard good things from parents. I know at one point a few years back we had it, and then I think we kind of scaled it back, and now we're bringing it back. And Leslie, I don't even know if you were here then. I think it was probably a mistake to scale it back or get rid of it. But do you have any feeling for why that happened, or
Budget cuts.
Okay.
It was, that's a simple answer. And the reason it remained at Woodland and not at the other schools was because Dr. Lawson was there at the time, and she fought for it.
Cool. Yeah, I think everything I've seen is really positive, and so I just hope we sort of run a steady course.
I've only been the director of this for 2 years. I was a science director before that, and I knew very little of Avid. And ever since then, I was like, I'm a huge fan. And so I do know I have a friend. Their child was in it at the junior high, and she had told me how it changed just that 1 year in the program. And so I'm a true believer, and the program works. And the other thing, it's not just the kids in that Avid elective. One of the things, it is actually school-wide instruction. That's one of the big components. And this is an Avid acronym. It's called WICKER. And it's like we actually give strategies for all the kids in the school through training all the teachers on. We have the kids writing. We have them doing inquiry, collaboration. We work on organization and reading. And so these strategies enhance the curriculum. They add engagement in all content areas. And it helps them, when a kid feels like they belong, then they're going to stay in school longer. And then the use of strategies will actually help these students become active learners so they can apply this the rest of their lives. And one of the things that I've actually done is for the schools to put Avid everything on one thing. Is we have a teacher page. Right now it's only on because Avid is a program that we have copyright laws on that. We share it with the schools that are in the program. So Ramey and Woodland have this now. It has all of their things in one place, and if you ever would like me to walk you through this, I could show you everything. So the Woodland teachers can go and click on the Woodland button, and they can find their notes. They can find all the strategies that they've been implementing throughout. And there is if you go on the main district page, there is an Avid page for parents as well.
So when you're talking about going to colleges, do y'all do like official tours with these kids? Or do you usually stay in the state of Arkansas, or do y'all go outside?
We're trying to keep close, and so we're hoping, because we're not at that point yet, but we're hoping their sophomore year to take them to Missouri Southern, which is in Joplin, which is much closer. The University of Ozarks, the one in Branson.
Oh, cool.
And so just to get a really good variety, one's maybe John Brown, so get things that are close, and then junior year we'll see how budgets and everything work, but ASU, because that would be an overnight trip, but everything else is day trips. So they've already went to, the 8th graders have went to Arkansas Tech and UAFS.
You probably know this, but Ozarks, as I recall, is one of those schools that is semi-free tuition you work your way through, so that can be really helpful for a lot of kids. And it's got a pretty good academic reputation too, I think, as good as Murrieta say.
I had an Avid parent catch me in church the other day and said, "Are you going there?" And I said, "Yeah, I think it's their sophomore year." So anyway. But one of the things that I like the most about is Avid invests in teachers. It's not just for those kids. The Avid strategies are just the best. It's just good pedagogy. They didn't come up with everything, but they put it in a package. When our teachers go to training, they have the science teachers looking at science strategies, math teachers looking at math strategies. And so it can make good teachers become great teachers. And you can ask any of my teachers that I've taken to an Avid Summer Institute, or even some of the teachers we've had path trainings that we've brought into our district. And they're like, that's one of the best trainings I've ever experienced. It just helps them to use their content to become a stronger teacher. And so it's not only going to affect the 165 students that are in the elective class, it's going to affect 1,403 junior high students and 2,486 FHS students.
What is the approximate cost? It's probably in here and I missed it.
For my entire budget for all 3 schools, it's $62,000.
Okay, yeah, that's servicing a lot of kids for that.
And the biggest part of that right now is we're having to train all of our teachers. So about $24,000 is traveling for summer professional development.
Leslie, do you, is this the investment in teachers, is that just 7 through 12 where the program is for students?
Yes,
or
because
that,
we do have a charge, I think it's like $3,000 a year for each school being an Avid designated school.
Okay.
And so one of the things I just had the Avid regional director from Dallas in yesterday, so they provide support so that they come in, you know, a couple times a year just to provide support and see what we need.
And you are in charge of all RTI, all RTI for the district too, right? So will you come back and talk to us about the rest of the RTI stuff, or is now the time when we're supposed to ask you about that stuff? Dr. Colbert, this is just Avid?
Yes.
Okay.
I can come back.
But you'll come back and visit us. Okay.
I have no slides on that.
Super. No, that's great. Just come back.
Any other questions? All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, next up we have new business and science materials. And Dr. Ben, are you going to cover that one, or is that somebody else?
We had a place held in the agenda in case there were items over $50,000, which there were not, so we'll be able to purchase the science materials without board approval.
Okay, great. All right, and then with that being the case, we will move over to old business for the action items for tonight. And first up is the shared use agreement. I'm going to hand it over to Keaton.
Okay. So the Fayetteville City Council has passed this joint resolution, and so I'm just going to review this one more time. You guys have heard this before, but shared use agreements are simply memorialized agreements to define public access and operational responsibilities, including costs. There are already a small number of shared use agreements in place in Fayetteville. The existing agreements can be used as a foundation to expand access to new facilities and to new hours of open access. Sharing facilities conserves land and construction labor and materials by eliminating duplicative capital projects. Sharing promotes active recreation because school facilities are usually convenient for residents to access and because districts have a mandate to distribute resources equitably. It is also important to recognize that sharing facilities promotes a spirit of cooperation between the school district and the city, which may lead to other creative pursuits such as cost sharing for the construction of wholly new facilities. New shared use agreements must explore the opportunity for increased access and the attendant costs for operation and maintenance with a common commitment to transparency. In-kind access or monetary compensation is reasonable and should be expected when operational costs increase due to a new agreement. Regardless of the details associated with any specific facility, it is a wise use of resources for the school district and the city to join in a diligent effort to expand access wherever feasible and wherever expanded access would be of public benefit. So this doesn't this is not a specific shared use agreement. This is simply a joint resolution to memorialize our shared interest in pursuing new shared use agreements in the future.
Had this before us the month before. I don't know if there's any more questions or a need for a discussion. If not, we can pass this with the motion.
I move we adopt or approve the resolution as presented.
Okay. I have a motion from Tim. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Second from Megan. Any discussion from the board? Any discussion from the floor? All right, seeing none. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. The resolution is adopted 7-0. Okay, up next is bus bids. Mr. McClure, we have bus bids before us for 3 buses, right? 2 special needs, 1 activity bus, and I believe the...
Yes, sir, what we discussed last month, the 2 special needs buses with wheelchair lift and 1 activity bus. And again, all of these will be air conditioned and equipped with 3-point lap shoulder harness seat belts.
Any questions for Mr. McClure? Bus bids.
They're all from Summit, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
All right. Do I have a motion to approve the bids for the 3 buses from Summit? Okay, a motion from Nika. Is there a second? Second from Tracy. Any more discussion, questions from the board? Any discussion from the floor? All right. All seeing none. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed, say no. All right, it's approved 7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McClure. Next up is maintenance project quotes. And I saw David Taylor. Is it Dr. Ben? Dr. Ben, excuse me.
David's here and can answer
Okay.
the hard questions, but this is second reading on the quotes. Again, items that purchase price over $50,000 do require board approval, so that's why we're here tonight. The first one is to Joplin Roofing for a total of $108,211. It's a roofing project. Second one's also roofing project to Dumaine Roofing, $64,620. The next item is parking lot improvements to PaveCon for $266,177.95. And the last one is for flooring to Acer 2 Flooring for $150,980.
Any questions for David or Dr. Ben? I saw the Washington floors on Monday night. They look unbelievable. They look really, really nice. Whatever that product is looks like it really holds up well and looks really nice. All right. Do we have a motion for approval of these maintenance project quotes?
So moved.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion from the board? Any discussion from the floor? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. All right, motion passes 7-0. Next up is the facilities condition assessment quote. And is that David? All right, that's good.
Good afternoon. So we're here to ask the board to approve the facility conditional assessment quote. I think we've talked about it 3 or 4 times and should have the stuff in your packet.
This gets adopted. When would the work begin, David?
When the work begin, it will begin sometime in April. I got that timeline right here that they gave us.
I'm going to ask you about the timeline on when it starts and when it
Yeah, I think it
might conclude.
starts, here it is. We start in April. Hopefully get started in April. It'll probably take sometime by September. We should have it all together. With the other that we're going to ask for approval to, if we get that, we'll compare them to, probably come back to the board in January of 2020 for final approval, and the work would start in February. The work for repair, the work to start the audit and everything will start in April.
Okay.
Takes about 140 days, somewhere along that, and then we'll have to compare them then we'll come back with the recommendations of what we find in our audit.
Can you share what the consultant's approach will be for existing buildings? I know we're looking at potential for new construction on existing land. We're looking at potential for renovation of existing facilities, and I know that can be really complex in terms of our, especially Leverett, Washington, Jefferson, the older facilities. So did you guys get into the details of how the consultant would, or what expertise they had around the complexities of looking at renovations and potential for the older facilities?
We told them we had some old schools, and with the conversation over the phone, of course, they'll come out and do their first assessment, and they said they have done some historical buildings, and they will look at all that. They'll give us numbers. They'll compare that and compare it to either building new or remodeling that building. And they'll have consultants that looks at PDA, environmental, roofing engineers, and everything, look at all that. And then they'll compare all that and put it together for us in a report.
And what do you expect that final report to look like, to kind of, I mean, well, not the details of any specific facility, just like, is this a roadmap? Is this a roadmap type, or a set of options? Or?
I think it'll be a good working document for the district for 6 to 10 years. I think there's going to be a lot of things in that we already know, or from my standpoint, I think I already know. And it's just, I hope this will show that. And like we talked about roofs, we've had a lot of problems with the roofs years ago. We fixed that problem. I think we'll find some problems in this we can fix too. Some old equipment, get it on a rotation, and bring the critical things, get them fixed right off the bat.
So this
I'm excited.
This helps us prioritize.
See where the money falls into that, yes. Something we've never had, and we've just kind of, I've been the one that's had to help make them decisions.
I was about to say, anything that would take some of the information you have in your head and get it all in one place, but also all the other disparate information about our buildings would be, if nothing else, a very useful document to have.
Yes, I think so.
And that it'll show us, it'll help establish the kind of like cadence that we have with the roofs for other things, right? It'll show us what we're paying in maintenance on buildings that we aren't using, for example, as schools, and whether.
Yes, they will be from the ground or from the foundation to the roofs and everything in between, and they'll do that. And what they think that needs to be replaced first. We got critical needs. We'll have non-critical needs.
Okay.
And then aesthetics will be the last thing we'll look at.
So they'll sort the critical and non-critical needs by building, and then will they sort that by for the whole district as well? Okay.
Yes.
Can you explain the annual subscription thing? That goes like, how many years are we?
Okay, the annual thing is what we liked about this company. They've got a partnership with School Dude, and that's the maintenance thing we use, the maintenance work order system we use. We feel that in the next couple of years, the state's going to come in and say, you've got to have all your equipment inventoried. We've got that, but it's in notebooks everywhere. So in their cost, they're going to put this inventory into School Dude for us. And this is part of the annual cost is part of that, because School Dude charges so much a year. So they charge for this program to keep the annual cost that we got to pay for the inventory as we change and everything, and then for the working document to keep on going.
Okay, so that's a database that's continually updated. Okay.
Yes. And we'll have to pay for it every year.
Is this a complete inventory, or are we talking about
HVAC equipment, kitchen equipment,
Okay.
exhaust fans, some plumbing, some electrical,
Okay.
just things in there that we've done a fairly good job in the past. And when we go work on a piece of equipment now, we can come back and school dude on our work order system, and we can change the compressor, whatever we've done, so we can keep a better working document. If we've changed a compressor and refrigerator 2 or 3 times, it's time to replace it.
So you're saying you have that now, or that's what you'll have with
Well,
this?
we've started it, and it's all on paper, and it's
Scratch.
just, we come in and write it down when nothing on computer right now. So, but we don't, it's all, some of the equipment goes back 10 or 12 years. We don't have nothing updated, so they'll put a number to it. It'll all be on School Dude. For us to go in and put it on School Dude, it'd be a ton of man hours to do that, and they're going to do that in this assessment with it.
Have new equipment, or if you purchase new equipment, that gets added
That will
in.
get added to that, yes.
Is that your job to do
Yeah,
that?
we'll have to add it to it as we put in new equipment.
So really the
And that's
annual,
part of that annual cost to use the,
just to use the. Yeah.
software to do that.
Software.
So I'm just trying to understand. So
Okay,
you would use the software to do that. So really, it's just like a big Excel sheet for you guys, or is it why
No,
the
because
subscription? What's the purpose
It
of
goes,
that piece?
it's through the state, School Dude is through the state of Arkansas, and it's required by the state for us to have School Dude for our maintenance tickets and everything. So School Dude charges so much a year for the database, so this company will charge that, and we'll use our database through the partnership with School Dude. But it will be on our School Dude database, so if we get a call and says Woodland Room 10 air conditioner's bad, it'll pop up and show us the number of that unit, all the information we need to know about that unit, and a work history of that unit. And I feel that in the next couple of years meeting I've gone to, the state's going to want to see all that for the Warm, Safe, and Dry program.
I understand that. Okay.
So who came up with the name?
School Dude.
School Dude. I thought I had that trademark when I first ran. But apparently
Well, they only work for schools.
All right. Any other questions for David or items to discuss? Okay, so before us we have this facilities condition assessment quote, and it's with, is it EMG? The name?
EMG.
EMG.
Yes.
So for us to go with EMG to get this assessment report on our facilities.
one other question. Do we know, in terms of other districts throughout the state that have taken this on? I may have missed it. Any other districts that we know that use
The
this company?
only other district I know, and it's nothing like we're going to get, I think we're getting a lot more, is Alma.
Yeah, we
and
saw
I don't know
Alma's,
of
yeah.
any other.
And Alma's was
school.
basically like a spiral report that had a page with each school, and so
Right.
would have like a list of square footage and number of classrooms and stuff like that. And I don't know what you'd call that, but what that was, but that I think this thing is
Basically
much
what
more.
theirs was. This is going to be in a lot more depth. They said they would send a crew of 2 to 3, and we would spend a day to a day and a half at each school. We'd start at the bottom, and we'd end up on the roof.
Y'all go to any other schools that actually use it this in depth and look at their system, or talk to them about it, or
We
interview
talked
them?
to them about, Dr. Slocum called 2 or 3 school districts and visited with them. I wasn't in that conversation, she shared all that with me. And this school has done, I think this company has done more K through 12 than any other company that we looked at.
And nationwide, they have schools
Nationwide,
okay.
nothing in Arkansas, no, nationwide. And I do know they have done everything from about 500,000 square feet up to 29 million square feet. Is what I read today and all that.
I did visit with Dr. Slocum yesterday, and she said the reviews from the other schools that they've worked with have been really, really positive.
Yeah, been really positive.
Can you remind me how many square feet you said at last meeting?
We've got 2 million.
2 million, good.
Yeah.
David, is the report that they generate, is that something that we're able to take and then continuously update?
Yes.
After that, so it's like a dynamic document.
Yes.
It's not going to be frozen and just a report.
No, it'll be a working document, and that'll be part of
that's the monthly or the annual subscription.
Annual cost to keep that going.
That's just that's the whole building. That's everything in the building. That's not just the machinery that that's not just the kitchen stuff
everything
and everything
building.
stuff. That's
the whole
everything that's on
of
there.
the building and everything. Roofs, plumbing, electrical, just it all. Windows, insulation.
Basically putting David Tate's brain on a computer.
I just thought it was just the equipment in that part, not like the walls of the building or the.
I will spend several hours with them, I'm sure.
Yeah. I saw that movie. They take the guy's brain, and they put electrodes up. So get ready. It's gonna be pretty
I'm
exciting.
ready. I told them I could make their job pretty easy.
Yeah, I bet, no doubt. They were like, yeah. They've never met you. They probably have some doubts.
I think it's a good idea to take data entry type stuff off of y'all's, plate, so you can focus on the maintenance and being proactive.
I agree.
I would like to move to approve the facilities condition assessment quote as presented.
Okay, a motion from Nika. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Keaton. Any other discussion from the board? Any discussion from the floor? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. Okay, it passes 7-0. Next up is energy. David.
Okay, we're here again to ask the board for approval for the energy investment grade audit quote, which we've talked about several times too.
So I'm really excited about moving forward with this project, and I know the district's been very engaged in energy conservation and energy efficiency efforts for a long time, and I think that the technology is moving so quickly that it'll be nice to get a comprehensive analysis of it and look at it. One question I had was kind of the potential for partnership between the facilities condition assessment vendor and then the energy audit firm. Can you speak to those kind of opportunities for synergies?
I really don't. I know we're going to bring all that information together. Both companies know that we're doing these together, so I think we'll have the opportunity to work together with them. So, yeah.
John can address that.
Do what, John? Yeah, John Coleman's here. Do you have anything? I think you've talked about that. We talked a little about that.
Yes, so during the interview questions that we received, there were some questions about sharing information.
Right.
Want to go to the mic?
Come on up to the podium so they can get you on the mic.
Sure.
So we received a number of questions during the review process, and this was one of those, how we would interface with the facilities assessment group. There will be some information we're collecting that will be useful to them and vice versa. They are doing more of an accounting of equipment, whereas we're looking at performance of equipment and how we can identify savings opportunities. So they do differ greatly in that regard, but there's enough overlap there that we definitely will establish communication with that group and understand exactly where they are versus what we're doing.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting. I'm really looking forward to seeing the results of everything, because I think there will be opportunities to address deferred, any maintenance issues that we have. So I expect that we'll have decisions. Staff will have decisions to make about, what do we put on a replacement schedule, and then what do we use, because we know we're going to have lighting savings, and so there's potential there to knock out some deferred maintenance, some replacements.
1986 chillers.
Right. And so we'll have decisions to make about how much of that do we want to knock out at once and use those lighting savings to pay for with no upfront cost. versus maximizing the cash flow from the lighting savings. So I'm excited. I think we'll have a lot of good options to consider.
The lighting excites me because I know what happened in 97, 98. We went in and, or I guess it's more like around 97, 98, we went in and put energy management systems in all of our districts. When we opened the school, Holt and McNair in 2000, we didn't see any increase in our electric bill adding 2 schools on, but just putting energy management systems in. So, and then 2000 through 2003, we went from T12s to T8s. So it's time to make the change.
What is this the same general type of a calendar for this type of assessment from starting in April and ending up sometime in the fall, something like that?
So once we get contract signed, we've got 120 days to execute our investment grade audit. And then we'll work from there to identify the projects that we want to bring forward to the board over another 60 days. So it's really about a 180-day period max to be able to identify what that project might look like.
So we may be looking at the end of the year time period for those type of projects, say if it was a lighting project or something else, to come forward that we could start considering.
I'm hoping it would be somewhere in the September, October time frame that we would have that ready for you.
Another question. Can you talk about some of the student engagement educational opportunities that you think could come from this?
Sure. So, yeah, as we go through and do this investment grade audit, we're looking at everything from, lighting, water, HVAC, windows, any of the performance opportunities and energy savings available there. But we also have some, it's not curriculum, but we understand the curriculum, science-based curriculum, and some of the things that coincide with what we're doing. One of those being renewable energy. And so we've got a couple of things that we've done with schools in the past where we engage, provide information to help inform some of the lessons that are going on there. One of the new ones that we're really excited about, and we've actually been working with Fayetteville Public Schools for a little over a year, is the solar suitcase project that just demonstrates how solar works, the renewable energy opportunities there, powering like a water pump, some LED lights that they can utilize in the classroom. So there's some different things that we've done that we'll incorporate into this project as well. It's hard for me to speak to specifics because we haven't gone in and done the evaluation yet. But once we come out of the investment grade audit and we analyze the opportunities that are there, we'll understand better how we can apply that and what that would specifically look like. Does that answer your question? Yeah,
thank you. Thinking about occupant behavior and the potential for education and even competitions around energy savings. Yeah,
Fayetteville has a really strong green team program, obviously, and a lot of engaged students and faculty within each district, and so kind of understanding better. We know on the recycling side that they've been really strong for years, but kind of understanding better how that's structured and how that could be utilized for behavioral change is something that we'll be taking a look at as well.
Okay, I have one more question. David, on the, can you speak to just the maintenance savings, like in terms of switching out light bulbs? Aside from the energy savings, how much time do you guys spend changing out light bulbs that?
I think there'll be a big change. Right now, even when have bulbs still out now on the T8s, we can go back with some LED bulbs only, and Happy Hollow is a good example. We can go in and outfit a whole room now with just LED bulbs, especially if we got 5 or more ballasts out in the room. We can relamp that whole room cheaper than we can go in and change the 5 ballasts and put T8 bulbs back in that right now. So I think our maintenance will really go down where we'll save on bulbs. we'll save on ballast cost, and we can use that money hopefully to get our HVAC equipment that we don't have something out there 30 years old we're trying to keep running. Kitchen equipment, got a lot of old kitchen equipment that we need to repair and replace, and got some boilers, and I think it'll make a big difference. Of course, hadn't put no money to it, so I don't know that. But.
Yeah.
Yeah, the current T8 lamps last, anywhere from 3 to 4 years. The LED is going to last 10 plus years.
10 plus years.
So it's a dramatic difference. And then a 60% reduction in energy use as well. So it's transformative. It's really driving these energy projects across all the facilities that we're working in. So it's going to be substantial. And the maintenance piece, obviously, excuse me, with the 10-year life, the maintenance piece goes down considerably.
And less fixtures too that we'll have to put in a classroom.
That's correct.
Get the same foot candles out of the lighting.
Right. Eaton wearing a hard hat for many months to come.
We'll have him right in the middle of it. The other
What's
thing
that over there?
Yeah. The other thing we didn't mention is that the utilities provide really strong incentives for these energy retrofit projects. So that's something that's really exciting as well. The lighting side from SWEPCO, they also provide incentives for some HVAC related change outs, and then Black Hills Energy, the gas company, provides energy incentives as well. So we'll be accessing all of those opportunities for the district as part of the project.
I won't get this right, but I know when we built Happy Hollow, we spent more money on some of the exterior glass than may have been originally spec'd. But by doing that, the cost of heating and cooling the building was dropped such that we recovered that additional cost within just a few years.
Right.
And so this is probably taking that and looking really across the board, regardless of the age of the buildings.
That's exactly right.
And then we've got some incentives off the equipment we put in there too. So.
All right. Any other questions? Keaton?
I'll be voting for it.
I'm just glad somebody knows about this stuff, because I have to honestly say I don't. So I'm really glad that you're asking good questions, because my questions would be pretty dumb, I think. So.
All right. So do I hear a motion?
So moved.
A motion from Keaton.
Second.
Second from Bob. Any other discussion from the board?
You clarify that's to approve this particular.
To approve the energy investment grade audit quote from Integrity. Any discussion from the floor? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. It's approved 7-0. Next up is school calendars and Cincy Mathis. I was asked the other day while we were changing the calendar, and I told them to contact you, so I hope they did.
Please do. I'd love that. Yes, can field any of those questions. I can talk about it if you need me to. Or
we had quite a obviously we had quite a discussion last time.
Yes, we did.
On various components of it, and don't know if there's any further discussion today.
Any other developments? Any other
no,
thoughts to
I
share?
mean, no, I don't. Not that I'm aware of. Nothing has changed.
Not leap year, is it?
No. No.
Really messed us up.
I move that we approve the revisions to the 2019-20 school calendars.
I think we have a motion from Nika.
Second.
Second from Keaton. Any discussion from the board? Any discussion from the floor? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. The calendar is adopted 7-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, and now we're up to the policies that we went through last month, and there's an array of them. Dr. Ben, is that you?
Yes, this is for second reading, and for action. We request these policies that are before you, and there is one edit to the from last month on the bus driver policy 4141.7, and that was simply a clarification of the term regular route driver was changed to contracted bus driver, just to clarify, because we do have some contracted bus drivers who weren't sure if they were considered regular route drivers because they do other duties and drive activity bus. So we just want to be sure that everyone knew that is, they are included in that category. So that's the only change.
Should we maybe go ahead and take these one at a time? Is that okay with everybody, unless we want to do them together? But if we want to,
I would really like to do them one at a time.
Okay. Well, why don't we do that then? So starting off with 41.7, the bus driver compensation policy. Are there any questions or discussion on that policy?
I move approval as presented.
Okay. We have a motion from Tim for 41.7.
Second.
Second from Megan. Any discussion from the board? Any discussion from the floor? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Policy is adopted 7-0. Next up is 5.30, possession and use of cell phones and other electronic devices.
Yes, 5.30 added the student tracking safety devices. These are GPS devices that have the capability for audio and video recording and listening in. So if we'll recall from last month our discussion about that, just wanted to bring that to mind.
I did have a question about this policy, Dr. Ben. My concern being, given that I have a high school student and I know how there are so many apps that these kids are using right now that have the capability to track by GPS. I don't know if they have the listen-in capability. I don't know enough about it, but I know that in this policy you're referring to a very specific type of technology.
That's the change to the policy. The policy itself is general, but the addition of that specific technology is correct.
Okay, so when it says student tracking safety device, does that, I mean, is that, to me, I'm not like a tech person, is that something that we need to further define? My concern is that because so many different apps and features that are built into technology now, and like we were hearing somewhere, eventually kids are going to have 7 devices when they walk in the building, like within the next few years or something. I don't remember where.
Well, that's a good point. I think if we are more specific, then it might bring more questions about what's included. So I think it's general on purpose, and because what it does limit is the listening in or the recording, and protects the privacy of students is essentially what this is for.
So it applies to all different types of features on a device.
An iPhone or it would still be inappropriate and not allowed for a student to use their own their phone or any other device to invade the privacy of another student while at school or school-sponsored activity.
But when it says that that feature needs to be disabled when they come on campus, I don't know that that's necessarily, I don't know that that's possible when it's like a built-in feature to so many different devices.
I think
are you talking about more like Find My iPhone when it's not a video?
No, I mean like now that kids can track each other just on
Find Friends
Snapchat.
or whatever. Oh, okay.
I mean like they're building it into all the different apps and things.
Mm-hmm. And this only applies to the listening in or recording. That feature must be disabled, but the GPS tracking is not included into the restriction.
No, listening in is the one child listening in on another child. It's not the phone, because like our phones, if you have your mic turned on, right, they listen to us all the time.
Right, exactly.
I mean,
Big Brother.
Yeah, and I don't mean that in like a crazy way. Like if your phone is over here and you have your mic on and you like ask whether you have almonds, and it'll like give you an almond advertisement the next time you turn it on. Like it. Yes, Keaton, can I get a confirmation? Okay, yeah. So that's just like space listening to us. Space listening to us is fine. It's just children listening to each other. That's not fine.
Well, children listen to each other in a classroom. That's okay.
I'm sorry, the one child's phone,
Device.
like the one child's device recording another child for the record the device holding child's purposes.
This
is what that's
what brought this
talking
up
about.
is two things. It, in addition to ASBA recognizing this as a problem and suggesting that we have something included in our policy, we also had this happen here at our school where it was an issue. And so it is related to a specific device. I won't mention a brand name, but there are a couple of brand names that have this ability, and it's for safety, for, as you know, for the parent's child, and I'm sure it has a good purpose, and we're not against those devices, but what we are trying to do is protect the privacy of students, of other students in the classroom or in other spaces, either at school or on school activities.
I understand that. I think just to follow up on Nico's question, like if I have my phone here and it's not off, and maybe even if it is off, that microphone is like listening to this whole conversation. I can't access what that phone is listening to, but like,
I think it's a transmission, because up above, I think it defines electronic devices as something that records it and transmits it, and with Siri or whatever else you have there, it's listening, it's on, it doesn't necessarily transmit. So, well, maybe it does.
I mean,
But
transmits to like Amazon, but it's not transmitting to like.
It's not recording
Big Brother is definitely
I know, I'm not crazy.
But it's not recording.
Like,
You're not.
I'm serious.
It's true.
My device is not recording you and then broadcasting it on.
No, in any way that is like controllable within the device.
Right. Yeah.
So that's what I guess that's my
it's-
concern is like it says in this phrasing that technology shall be disabled, and like
You can disable that in your phone. I mean, you can turn its ability to like what I'm talking about. If you are meticulous, you can go in and turn that all off in your phone. But
are we
is that what
asking
we're
every
requiring
kid?
of people?
Yeah, is that
Right.
what we're asking? That's
I
my
don't think we
question.
are, because it's not transmitting
not
in the sense it's
controlled,
not broadcasting what Megan's saying to the outside world.
I
in the
don't
classroom.
have access to what my mic is recording in here to do anything with. Like that's not housed in my phone.
But technology makes it difficult to define because it becomes undefinable with the way that it works. But
And it's just changing so quickly. I mean, all of these things
Hard
are
to keep up
building
with
that
it.
stuff in, and kids are. What I'm concerned about is kids not even realizing that something is enabled, that they, I understand the intent of this policy, but I could easily see a kid who is a well-meaning student allowing, their phone sometimes is smarter than they are.
Right, and this policy already covers cell phones, in my opinion. Number one, under misuse of electronic devices includes, but not limited to, use of electronic devices during class time in any manner other than specifically permitted by the classroom instructor. So the classroom instructor would have the authority to say, be sure you turn your phones off, or yes, you may use your phone to video project, or so the instructor would be in control of that device.
That's just out of date so quickly, but.
Well, that's what I was thinking. Do we just keep this one on top of mind, and if something comes up, we would need to just address it and amend the policy?
Yeah. Yeah, because I think the intent is good, and you're right. I agree with you that if you make it more specific, then it'll probably just become out of date that much more quickly. So, I don't know. I can envision some complications, but I don't know exactly what those will be.
Bob and I have landlines, I'm sure, and Princess phones at our houses, so maybe we don't have to worry about some of those things. It's we've had other policies. I'm trying to think what it was. There were some health policies about medicines and things that were very, very, very specific about, naming all the types of prescriptions and things. And I think over time we've tried to broaden to give flexibility. And I'm sure there's someone out there looking to defeat a policy like this, or the devices themselves that have capabilities that we don't anticipate, then we'll amend it if we need to.
At the risk of wasting the board's time, I just wanted to, in light of our discussion last time about bathrooms, I just wanted those of you who attended the Washington PTO meeting with me earlier this week, you sort of got treated to one of the parent concerns that was in a bathroom and their efforts to keep their child safe, and the way that they feel in some ways that it's on them to keep their child safe. And just that how important I think it is if we, as we limit parents' ability to do that when they feel that their child is not safe, how important it is that we step up other efforts to keep that child safe in ways that are obvious to the parents. Does that make sense?
It does, and I think one of the things that on that discussion point that was brought up was that the parent appreciated was the steps that were taken by the school after that, and I think that's all important because they aren't alone. I mean, it should be, incident that happens in the bathroom should go to teacher, administrator, whomever. There should be action, and there should be results from that. And so I thought that was, in having a kind of lengthy conversation before and after the PTO meeting with that particular person, that was an important component of it. So I agree, but I also, I guess I don't necessarily agree that they're alone, because they're definitely not. The school took steps after that appropriately, and I think the parent was appreciative of that.
Yes, I think I agree that I think what I'm saying is that just how important those additional steps are, that if we're not going to let people do this, how important it is that we're really empowering school leaders to take care of those things, that we're thinking creatively as a district about how to take care of them, or on them.
Right, and we agree that we had the discussion. The school is putting other measures in place to address that issue as we continue to move forward with it. Yes.
It might help to know that also in this policy, I think it gives room for exceptions and judgment to be used in, I'll count the paragraphs, 1, 2, 3, 4th paragraph, depending on third from the bottom, says that this is a current policy, that these devices are permitted if it's in an IEP or is needed in an emergency. And then the last paragraph, or the top paragraph of page 2, says the word "if" is in there, in terms of if it is determined that the device's recording or listening and capabilities are used in violation of this policy. So someone would make a determination after an event.
All right. Any more discussion? We have a motion to adopt policy 5.30 as it is before us.
So moved.
Okay, have a motion from Nika. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Keaton. Any more discussion from the board? Any discussion from the floor? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye, please.
Aye. Aye.
Policy is adopted 7-0. Next up is policy 5.34, school health policy.
This is one, I think Melissa Thomas spoke on this at the last meeting. I was going to state that one of the primary additions was to allow students to self-administer. I think also another addition was for a bystander in the case of an emergency to administer an opioid corrective medication if that was available.
I move to adopt the amendments, or the new policy 5.34, school health policy.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any more discussion from the board? Any discussion from the floor? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. Policy is adopted 7-0. And next up is policy 5.41, Smart Core Curriculum.
These were essentially language updates to meet ESSA language. The main difference in this proposal versus the old was that the consent form is no longer required to be returned to the school by ESSA, so that's the main change in these policies. There are two of them, one that applies up through the class of 2020 and then one that applies after the class of 2020. And there's just one small thing that applies to the classes after 2020, which is page 2 of, I'm getting ahead to the 5.41.1, but they are related. The paragraph that is titled Personal and Family Finance, those credit courses offerings are not in the earlier version, so that starts at after 2020.
Have any questions on 5.41?
I move approval of policy 5.41.
Motion by Tim.
Second.
Second by Nika. Any discussion? More from the board? Any discussion from the floor? Seeing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion's adopted. Policy's adopted 7-0. Last up is 5.41.1. Same, yeah.
I move approval.
5.41.1.
Yes.
Okay, we have a motion by Tim.
Second.
Second by Nika. Any discussion from the board? Any discussion from the floor? All right, seeing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, and he sat down, but I'm going to embarrass him for a second. I did happen to notice in our packet a certain retirement, and wanted to acknowledge that, and going to be sad to see you off to the fishing boat, but I know, because I know that's where we may be able to find you. But always appreciated your professionalism and the steadiness that you've brought to your work, and all the times that you've been before us, haggling through these policy wordings and difficult issues of that nature. So we definitely appreciate all the time you've given to us in our district, Dr. Ben. Thank you. Let the record reflect a standing ovation.
I did scratch his name off of my list, so I didn't actually vote to
So maybe it didn't count.
on the consent agenda. It didn't pass.
We'll have to test that out sometime to see how that works. Last up is policy 41.2, stipend. And Hannah, is that you for this one again? And this is a policy that came up before us through the PPC. We had quite a discussion on it last time, and we're back up before us now.
Okay. Oops. There's a paper clip in there now. Sorry about that. Okay, so after we presented this to you last time, there was still some confusion, and I think that was because we added the wording because we felt that we needed a process in place so that other teachers would know how you can get a stipend and what the process is to apply for it. But we left everything else in the policy standing, and there was some wording throughout with different tables that then started making it, wait, where do I look? So we consolidated all of that into the front part. So you can see all of that's in red. For example, if you look under definition of a stipend, the athletic stipends, that is directly taken from under the table. We didn't change anything. We just moved it to where it would go with the definition of a stipend. Then we also, on the second page, which is now a little bit longer. Sorry, I couldn't get to one page, Keaton. we added the definition of hourly and daily rate, which was a tiny table underneath the academic stipends on the original policy. And so we just described what that was, and we've also made reference to each table. I numbered them so that as you're reading the policy, you can look and see which one we're talking about. I did talk to Glenda about the deadline for when they should be approved, and she said that she didn't see any reason to change what was in the proposal as is. And then Greg did send me we had a copy of the stipends we currently give, and then he sent me an editable version of the chart. So we weren't able to get together to do it together, so I was just looking at the old chart that we had and then the actual stipends that we give. And there were a couple that we don't do anymore. For example, the SLC lead teacher. And then some of the amounts were a little bit different. I don't know if you have a colored copy, but we do have, our academic stipends are arranged by tiers, but the tier system was set up, did you say it was under Jenny Wiseman? I think it was during that time. But there wasn't any clear reason why one was in one tier or another, so that information didn't stay when she left. And so it was confusing because in our old chart, there's overlap in the amounts that are paid out as stipends. So for example, tier 1 was 2,000 to 10,000, but tier 2 was 1,500 to 2,500. But there wasn't any clear reason as to why there was that overlap. So I just did the tiers based off of the numeric amount and put them that way. One other thing, we have the technology mentors at all the different schools, which is basically the gradebook guru. And on the color-coded chart that you have, I just condensed them all together and called it technology mentor instead of saying elementary, middle school, junior high, because they all get paid the exact same amount. And so it didn't seem like we needed on the policy chart to have each of them separated. That's something in the business office, of course, they have to know where it's going, but on the policy, I was just trying to tighten that up a little bit.
One question.
Yes.
And I know this is, the policy you presented to us last month was based off of our current policy. I mean, right? Most of the, I wish I had a copy of the current policy, but one of the things that I think is confusing me is that this is a policy, a stipend schedule policy, but we include things in here about extended contract and contract time compensation, hourly rate. I don't know. It just seems like that should be on a separate policy. It shouldn't be included, lumped in here.
The current policy has the stipends and that hourly rate. So our policy, as it appears online, is simply the academic stipend chart. So the little mini chart, which talks about hourly rate, and then the chart that has the academic stipends. That's all our policy is. Right now. So there's very little verbiage, which is what was causing a lot of the issues. I think it would be nice if we called it the extra compensation policy, as opposed to just a stipend policy, because there are a lot of different ways in which we do compensate both certified and classified employees for doing things outside of their contractual obligations. And this allows it all to be in one place. Instead of looking, okay, what's stipend? Okay, what about extended contract? Okay, what if I have an hourly rate? And you're looking at all these different separate places where really the umbrella is extra compensation.
Yeah, I think to that point, I so appreciate your work, Anna, and everybody who's worked with you on starting to flesh this out. I just feel like we're still not there.
Okay.
For sort of a variety of things, I think that's one issue. It can sort of be solved by some name change, by like naming the policy differently. Right now, right, that stipend schedule, like classified people don't get stipends. That like, so it's not for like, so if you're a classified employee and you're like stipends, let me, right? I mean, I feel like there are so many different topics. I agree with Nico that are covered under here. In talking with Janelle about the policy the other day, it seems like the administration and teachers haven't had a chance to sit down and really work through what that process would be. I don't know if Janelle, you want to speak to admin, and because I just feel like we're not hearing a cohesive draft quite
yes, I don't know, like you stated, we have not had the opportunity to come together and collaborate on this policy before, in order for the administration to approve it, to say yes, we would recommend approval. So we are asking that we allow us to go ahead and go back and work with PPC and my team to sit down and talk about some of these concerns that we have as administration with some of the changes that they are going to propose to you. Do we agree with having something in writing? Because right now we do not really have the steps laid out in the policy. As you stated, there's just a schedule. So we are in favor of the concept of what this is going to bring and what it would establish for us. We agree that we need to have something in place. But right now we can't support it as it is that they're presenting it to you tonight. So I would like for us to try to go back and look at it and work together.
Yeah, when that happens, I feel like you've done a ton of work here, but to me this still seems like it's just kind of whatever's there now and like divide it up as best you can, given I feel like this just needs like a district-wide collaboration to get to something that is coherent for everybody and kind of includes everything and has definitions and has like just where it all, I don't know. I feel like there's just a lot more.
Feel the same way. Yeah.
To do.
I think both teams should get together and be around the table discussing, having Glenda there as well, and Greg and Larry.
Yeah.
Yes.
And obviously, if there are like PPC has the right to come to us with a policy for approval. So if those differences can't be reconciled, we can look at different drafts of that, and the board can help to make that decision. But I feel like we just need more.
Right.
Until then.
And when we were working on this, of course, Dr. Ben, who is your admin liaison, and Dr. Weber were present, as well as Chris Lawson, and Greg Moniz has been in multiple meetings. And so, I mean, I agree. It is not perfect, but I was trying not to change things too much because then it becomes a different policy as opposed to the one that we presented before. So, yeah.
So, in terms of cleanup and clarification, the component about how to bring about additional compensation for the National Board Certified Teachers and laying that out, that's really not a part of policy. That's a specific thing about how we're going to, you know, if we actually change it and make this additional compensation, but to spell it out and then also have all the identified employees who would qualify. That's just kind of hanging off the edge here, and it belongs somewhere else besides our policy approval of 5 point.
I mean, agreed.
That's one more thing that's
okay. Well, so when we came last time, I presented this, which was just like the wording to go with our charts. That was one thing, and then as a separate item, we brought up the National Board Certified Teachers. So everything once, I guess it starts, I don't know where it starts in the agenda. If it's with the salary schedule, let me see. Yeah, so from the salary schedule on, that's a totally separate issue. So we separated them last time as well because we didn't want we didn't want to stop the ability to give definitions of stipends and how do you get them. We didn't want them to cross over, because if we put it all together as one presentation, if you liked this, but you didn't like the National Board Certified increase, then you have to vote no for all of it, which was kind of like where we found ourselves at one of our other policies that we presented to you. So we tried to make those two separate items, even though they fall under the same umbrella of 41.2.
All the more reason it should not be called the stipend schedule policy.
Right. I agree with you. I honestly believe, and many other districts call it extra compensation policy. That's what they do, and they put all of these things together, just like we have here. So again, we looked at Fort Smith, Rogers, Bentonville, Springdale, Springfield. We looked at a lot of different places to get ideas, and we just took organizational things from them and incorporated it here. And as far as like the process, you know, where it says like how you can propose, I mean, it's not very specific currently, but on purpose, because we're not trying to say who gets to decide on these things. I mean, ultimately you approve a stipend, but stipend requests shouldn't come directly to the PPC, and that's what's happening currently, is that there's no one else knows where they're supposed to go in order to say, hey, I'm spending 180 hours for this particular club that is bringing all of these accolades to our district. I would like a stipend. We would like to give you one. That is not our job. So the whole reason behind all of this was so that people knew where they were supposed to go in order to request a stipend.
And people definitely deserve to know where to go.
Yeah.
And PPC deserves to not have to field that. So it sounds like we have a to-do list.
Yes. Okay. So let me review. Okay, so the to-do, I guess you'll make our to-do list, yes. Dr. Colbert, and you'll be at our next meeting in April. Okay. So no April Fool's though, because it's Monday. All right.
Yeah, I think so, and I think the idea, would that be something that would come back before us in April or May-ish?
Yes,
something,
right.
something around
Yes.
that that time? Okay.
Yes.
Well, yeah, I think we could certainly hear that motion.
Do we need to move to table, or can we just not take action on it?
I'd like to move
I'm just curious
to
about
table.
what the deal is with
Can I
that.
ask Chris for a second before we, I don't want to inadvertently mess that up.
Well, I think, share space with you. I mean, I think you could do it either way, because under policy 1.9, when a proposal is brought to you from the PPC, the board can act on it at that meeting, but no later than the next regular scheduled meeting. And I think the proposal tonight is different from the proposal last month. So again, you have the option of acting on it tonight. You could refer it back to the PPC for further review based on what's been said tonight, if you wish, which would be consistent with policy 1.9.
Perhaps the motion would be to defer it.
I'd like to move to refer
Refer
it
it
back to the PPC and to admin for collaboration.
Second.
Motion from Megan, second from Bob. Any other discussion from the board? Any discussion from the floor at all? Okay. Seeing none, all those in favor say aye, please.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0. Thank you, Anna.
Yeah.
Again,
Okay. So is that, are we lumping the national board into that as well? Sorry, I should have asked that earlier. Last meeting, we separated them. So I did the one part, and then I presented the other, and we considered them separately.
Were they two
They're
separate from the PPC? Were they two separate
Yes.
votes from the PPC?
Yes.
And they have slightly different numbers.
We don't have those kind of broken out on our agenda, but we could just go ahead and vote to do that, to treat that one the same. If that, does it have a separate number?
It does. It's 4141.1.
So
I also.
I was going to explain what we did based off of your feedback on that national board.
Okay.
When we looked at what our definition of a stipend was, really national board certification, that doesn't really fall into what a stipend is. So we looked around, and Greg Monetz showed us what they do in Fort Smith, which is on the salary schedule. There is a footnote that states individuals who achieve the National Board Professional Teaching Standard Certificate will be granted an annual $1,000 award for the 5-year life of the certificate in addition to the pay on the above salary schedule. So we were suggesting to do that in lieu of having it on the stipend chart. That would still include what we were requesting, which was an increase, because currently we give a $2,500 one-time payout, and we were asking that the board consider doing $1,000 a year for the life of the certificate, which would be $5,000, so essentially double what we currently give. And then when we talked about, you saw the figures for all of the people who are already certified, because this would be newly certified National Board teachers. So you have a list of those in your agenda. The last time we met, the first year, the rollout was pretty expensive. And so that was one of the things that we took note of, and we tried to figure out a different way to spread that out. And so what we decided was that the current, or what we propose, obviously, is that all the current nationally board certified teachers would receive a second lump sum of $2,500 to equal $5,000, so that would mean every teacher who is nationally board certified would receive $5,000 from the school district. But instead of doing it all at one time, we would pay them in the year that their certification would expire. So it's complicated because the state keeps changing the rules. And so you used to be able to be certified for 10 years, and so the number of years you could be certified has changed. Now it's only 5. And after 5, you're done, you have to recertify. And so you can look at the list, and there's different expiration dates for different people, and I think that it's never over $45,000. And it goes until 2027, thank you. Okay. So that was our proposal on that. I just wanted to make sure that we put that out there, because that was one of the discussions that we did have in PPC the last time, was to we wanted to honor what we brought to you, because this is, again, one of the things that we get asked a lot. And the idea of putting that footnote on the salary schedule we thought was a good idea, because as people are looking to districts to decide where do I want to go, one of the first things they look at is the salary schedule. Having that on there to see that, oh, I'm nationally board certified, I will get compensated in this district for that much, is kind of nice. But okay, that's all.
For referring this back, I also asked for some data. And this is just to be totally transparent, this is like a tough policy or deal for me to talk about, because I, in general, would love to pay teachers a lot more. I mean,
right.
So the way that this shakes out for me is that as I look at this list of teachers and I think about all the teachers that I know in the district and some of the very lovely and accomplished ones that are on this list and the very lovely and accomplished and successful ones that are not on this list. And I think about dedicating district payroll dollars to a very narrow group of teachers. It's not that I can't imagine doing that. It's just that I feel like I have a very high bar for what that test would be. That was like merit pay for teachers, which is what this feels like to me. So I asked Dr. Colbert if he had data that could try to show the merit, like how we measure merit in teachers and what we're seeing. And we were only, from what I understand from Dr. Colbert, we were only able to see data for, I think there are 81 national board certified teachers in the district, and I think it was 38 of those teachers we can show data for, because they teach a tested subject, right. K8. So that means English. They're K8 math and English teachers. And when we look at that data breakdown in English, national board certified teachers perform about 67% of them have results in the classroom that are above the district average and above their school average. In math, national board certified teachers perform at like 47% or 51% compared to their same school, same district. So, I mean, obviously there's a big difference between 38 teachers and 81. There are several people on the national board list who are building administrators, so they already have discretionary raises available to them. Like if they do well, we give them an additional salary bump. There are a lot of like counselors and librarians and non-tested subject area teachers, high school teachers. So for me, I just feel like standardized test data doesn't show everything. Like I know that standardized test data is a very narrow slice of what a teacher's up to and what his or her results are. It's also kind of the only data that we have available to judge whether the teachers on the national board certified list are like so much better than their non-national board certified peers, which is a judgment that I don't feel super comfortable making. So I think that like that's the data that I have now, and with just that data in front of me, I don't feel comfortable personally saying like, yes, you deserve not just the $2,500 additional that you have, but the additional $2,500 that you're asking for. So I would love additional data if there's data that national board certified teachers have for this district, not nationally, but for this district, that they'd like to share with the board.
Yes.
That would be helpful.
And my understanding is that you were sent some data, but perhaps you were not. But I wanted to just go back. I don't think this is merit pay. Because this is a certification. So this is, to me, the reason why we wanted to put it on the salary schedule is because like, this is lifelong learning. So if I went back and got 15 hours towards another degree, I would get a salary bump. That doesn't mean that it necessarily translates to me having my students perform better in my class. It probably will, but it doesn't necessarily mean that. And I'm a non-tested area, so you would never have that kind of standardized data on me. But that, I think that's why I just wanted to point that out, that I don't think that this is merit pay, because you are doing a lot of work that is very academic, and it's a certification, so it's not just like, oh, you got this and it was very easy for you to do it, because it's a process. And there's a lot of work that's involved in it. I'm going to turn it over to Karen to talk to you about it, because I myself am not nationally board certified, so I can only say what I know. Okay.
Just to that, I think my understanding of why we, and this could be a philosophical misunderstanding of mine, my understanding of why we pay somebody who has a master's degree more than somebody who has a bachelor's degree is not pay for having additional education, but we believe that there is a value add to students, that everything that we do in the district is student focused. So I think that we have a salary schedule that believes that additional degrees means merit, right? That like it is merit pay. It's just we've decided that an additional degree is a good way to measure merit in teachers. Not we, but like nationally, that's how people do it. National board certification, it's like, it sounds to me like people are making an argument that national board certification is the equivalent of a master's degree or the equivalent of a doctoral degree. It's the equivalent of that kind of bump, but it only lasts for 5 years or it only lasts for 10 years. That like there's some, so Do you understand what I'm saying? Like,
yes, I understand what you're saying. I will tell you that was never the intent. There was never any discussion that a national board certification equals master's degree.
No. I just mean that it's the same kind of thing. I know it's not a master's degree.
Sure.
I just mean that it's the same kind of thing that it deserves, we should take this, and this looks very similar across the nation, and we should put an asterisk under here that says national board certification is like, boom, it is like, it's a big enough deal that it gets a spot on our salary schedule. That's a big statement to make about what a national board certification does for a teacher.
And I don't disagree, but before I turn it over, I'm so sorry. To play devil's advocate, if you look at the bachelor's column, at a certain point, it just plateaus. And so it's essentially, if we're talking about merit, because you said our salary schedule, it's based off of merit, are we saying that our teachers who only have a bachelor's degree but have 20 and 25 years experience are no more valuable once they hit 15 years or 20 years or wherever it stops?
Right. And to me, that's a weakness in here, right? Like that's a weakness in how we do. And I think everybody in the nation knows that we have a weakness in how we compensate teachers, right? Like, that's an overstatement. I'm sorry. I think it is there are many people nationally who feel like that we don't do a good job of like compensating teachers for their worth. For me, as we try to like sling solves at that, is national board certification the solve that we want to sling at that? As the state is like, I don't know if I feel that. And as we have local data that says like, I don't know, it's a flip of a coin on like places where we have data, it's a flip of a coin.
Sure. And I hear you, but as a member of the certified PPC, like my obligation is to the people who.
It's not personal. I know.
I'm not taking it personal, but like the reason why we are bringing this is because they asked us to repeatedly. And so we felt like, I mean, it is my obligation to bring what the certified staff wants us to bring forward to you. And you can say no, and that's fine, but we tried.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I appreciate you.
Tell them all about the good stuff.
With all that. Okay, I'm Karen Finney, and I'm also a member of the Personnel Policy Committee, and this is my first year on that, but I'm also a National Board Certified Teacher. Y'all hear me?
What do you teach?
I'm sorry, what?
What do you teach?
I teach Gifted and Talented this year. Before that, I was Butterfield kindergarten and 5th grade. So and I wasn't here last time because I was at a DT conference, and I'm sorry I missed the discussion, but what I understood was that, I loved that you asked those questions, because I think that that's what we need to be able to show value for that. We, as National Board teachers, can say, yes, in my classroom, I know personally the value that I got from that process, but that doesn't translate to you. That was a personal value I got, that's great. But what did they learn? And I think that, obviously, that's the job that you guys have. That's what you're wanting to know. And so we, after you asked us that last time, Mimi Hager sent out a survey to all of the nationally board certified teachers. And there were, let me see here. So there are 81, I believe you said. And she sent it out the middle of spring break week, and we got 43 responses. And I will tell you, there was like 102 pages worth of responses from those teachers. I will not read all that to you. It feels like a Mueller report. But what I thought was interesting was that those responses, they were really well balanced in the representation. There were elementary teachers, 14, 3 middle school, 5 junior high, 11 high school, 4 administration, 4 specialists, and 2 counselors. So I felt like that was a good representation from our district, and that when you looked at that, we asked some of those questions. We asked those teachers to try to quantify, how do you show student achievement? And it is hard. There isn't a map. I can't print a report for you that shows that. And so I feel like, though I hope some of their words will say that to you, and give you some idea of where we're coming from with that, because I loved that question, and I think you're the one that asked that. But absolutely. Oh, and it shouldn't. There should be merit for our district, because you're making those decisions for our district. So I believe that. When I looked at that, I was thinking about our district supports the use of professional learning communities because we believe that that process leads to increased student achievement. So we know that that helps. That's been supported. They are collaborative approaches to professional development where educators share expertise and insights, examine data, and engage in collective problem solving. Inquiry and reflection, that's the key word here, are at the heart of effective PLCs. I believe you will hear these ideas strongly expressed in our survey results. So under the, when you talk about how does certification improve student achievement in Fayetteville, if you'll permit me, I'd like to just share a few of those things with you. I pulled just what I thought were some of the really good ones that showed effectiveness. A Fayetteville High School teacher said, I taught at Northside High School for the year I worked on National Board. The school had a 30% ESL population at that time. That year, my passing rate for students on the biology end of the year course was 60%. By my last year, I had a 95% pass rate compared to only 38% for the rest of the school. The year I came to Fayetteville, our biology end of course pass rate was 60% as a department. My then principal asked me to lead the department to improve the scores. 3 years later, we were at a 75% passing as a department and earned a High Achieving School Award from the U of A. An FHS counselor said, I was really forced in a good way to look at poverty through many different lenses in a very deep way. What I learned through this process has had a profound impact on my counseling practice. One of our elementary principals said, for me, it forced me to be a more reflective teacher by becoming more reflective, again, that word that we use all the time when we're talking about PLCs. I learned to ask important questions about my practice that in turn increased achievement in my students. Questions like, why are some students learning and some not? What can I change about my practice to ensure higher achievement? What can I do for students when they don't learn, and what can I do for students who already know the material? A Woodland teacher in her first year under certification said, I learned to dig deeper into student data to really determine whether students were learning and what I was trying to teach them, and to focus on students who were struggling so I could find more ways to teach them. I helped one student in particular get placed in a strategic reading class, and she grew 200 Lexile points in one 9-week class. Let's see here. Oh, an elementary teacher said, I thought this part was great. Reflection became instinctual. The reflection component alone is worth the process. When you're constantly reflecting on a lesson and student understanding, you can't help but become a better teacher and help your students become better learners. Unlike many other professional activities I've been a part of, National Board a high school teacher. National Board required me to explain the choices I made when working with my students. The system of reflection I gained from National Board helps me to reach kids that before were lost in the margins, as I constantly make improvements based on what actually works instead of what I hope works. I had always felt like I was a dedicated teacher, but now I know that I am both dedicated and effective. So I think some of these things are hard to quantify, and I understand exactly what you're saying.
I also like, those are lovely. I've never been a part of a teacher training where those weren't the questions that I was asked to do. I mean, I feel like reflection is the key word in any high quality teaching program. Like, I mean,
it is.
Like, what are the kids in the margins doing? Why are some kids learning and not other kids learning? Like, that's what it means to be a teacher.
And I think you're right. I think that what I feel like they're saying here is that because it was something they chose to do and as a process that was involved, they do it more effectively, they do it more often.
Yeah, and
I think that's what I'm
and I love that
hearing.
was transformative for them. I wonder if we talk to the hundreds of other teachers in our district that aren't National Board certified, and we say, like, how did you learn to reflect? What programs taught you to what were the transformative programs for you as an educator? Like, I feel like it's possible that they would have answers to that question as well.
So we did a comparison, you're saying?
But Megan, I think we could really bar ourselves down with that type of an analysis on anything that we incentivize.
Yeah, I do too. And so, but we're not asked to incentivize things all the time, and we're being asked to incentivize this program, and it's concerning to me to incentivize a program.
We do incentivize this program.
We're being asked to take additional money and further incentivize this program. So the incentive that we provide is.
Well, I think, here's my thought, and we can stew on this, or no, I think we're going to have a difference of opinion. Megan's may have a different one from Keaton, and in the end, we'll have a chance to vote on that. And you know, I personally, what I'd like to see is to have the best recommendation from you all as our professionals and administrators, as the professionals to us, and to bring that forward. And
I would also be curious to hear from FEA.
But I mean, I always hesitate when on things like this, when there's data being thrown about or asked for that type of support, because as you mentioned, we do the same thing with longevity, we do the same thing with academic degrees, and we don't necessarily ask those same questions, but we do have an inherent belief that attaining those levels of degree or longevity should be incentivized for a variety of reasons. And you know, a few of those may be data supported, other ones may be based on professional judgment. And I'd like to hear the professional judgment and make a call on it, because I understand your point. Love to be able to, you know, it's not an exact science kind of drawing these benchmarks, I guess, or setting these incentives. But in the end, I mean, I really feel like we could bog ourselves down on any one of these incentives if we were to require that level of proof.
I think we could too, and I think what I'm saying is, like, let's say that we do a really involved trauma-informed training for counselors, and that has like the highest mark from the American Psychological Association and the School Counselors Association, and they're like, this is the greatest trauma-informed training program, and it takes a ton of time, and counselors have to reflect on it for, you know, and I mean, you're right, like, we do already incentivize National Board. We don't have infinite dollars for personnel. My understanding from admin is that they would love to save up for a 1% across the board raise, maybe a 1% across the board raise this year, maybe like when we dedicate those dollars to particular pieces of our staff, we don't have those dollars available to everyone. And I have no bone to pick with National Board. I think it is transformative for lots of teachers. Is it more transformative than a really involved trauma-informed training for counselors? Is it more transformative? I mean, like, we do incentivize programs, but I think it's a big deal to add a program that we incentivize. I think it's a big deal to add an additional incentive to a particular program. Like, to me, those are big deals.
It's kind of a straitjacket because you can't take it away once it's there.
Right.
It's very
I mean,
hard.
that's where we are with this.
I mean, just reading the research, I was like kind of 90% sure I was going to vote no. And then hearing your testimony and seeing the people on this list, yeah, you know, maybe nationally this doesn't show huge gains. Maybe locally it's turned out to be a good, something worthwhile. A lot of times things do work out that way. That said, I do share a lot of Megan's concerns, and I also, and I guess this is also one of your concerns as well, it might get in the way of a broader pay raise for everybody. And so, you know, I guess for those reasons, I'm a little uncomfortable to vote for it. Although, again, when I look at this list, you know, I know a lot of these people are doing a really great job. So, so it is you've made great arguments. You know, I'm still probably inclined against.
Can I also say that I know that one of our concerns as current MBCTs is because our district has not, we only give the one-time incentive. And when you look across, I think there were, how many? I think you all got some of this information last time, but when we look at Arkansas as a whole, I think we had 128 districts that we could tell gave money to those, and only 5% of those gave a one-time. The rest of those were annual, the 95%. So I feel like that when you look at the other districts that we're lumped with in that, that really isn't, in my personal opinion, where we want to be. You know, we want to be attracting those teachers. And I mean, you can make the argument for all the schools around us that have whatever, you know, salaries that they want to pay those National Board teachers. But I feel like when we're looking at really only changing ours by $2,500, and instead of it's $5,000 total, but in order to kind of stay competitive, in my opinion, I think that that's something to consider also, for just how it looks, how it represents our district. But I understand concerns about that
I just want to go back to Justin's point that it doesn't sound like that there's some unanimous view on the board in terms of what to do, and asking admin and teaching staff to have conversations and see if there's something that can come forward next month that wraps this up in a way that we can vote up or down on.
I agree.
I think it's.
That's reasonable.
I would, in that case, in that situation, I would ask that we do as we did with the previous policy and refer it back.
And I would love to know from before I vote on this, I would like to know from admin where the all staff raise is. So if
have the data in front of us, yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah. So where are we on being able to offer that?
Megan,
where are we not?
that is one reason why I had asked Anna to hold off on that. What, 2 months ago? And because we had not finalized the budget, we really need to see where we are. Glenda is in the process of trying to analyze it right now, so I cannot say, where we are with the 1%.
No, I mean, eventually.
Okay.
You don't have to tell me that now.
Eventually,
I know you don't have that
hopefully, I can say we can't do both right now until we try, because there are other things that we need to do within that budget. So as we go through and analyze it, because personally I want us to, because I recognize the National Board Certified Teachers, I believe in the program, I believe in what you do, but as we look at the entire budget right now, that was not part of the piece that we were going to budget for. So therefore we have to go back and look at the budget to see where we can do this. It may not be this year, but at least give us the time to see if we can find it within the budget later on. But right now, my main concern is, do we have enough that we can give at least a raise across the board, be it 1% or 1.5, whatever, but right now that's what we're working on.
Well, on top of, are we going to have more school resource officers in every building?
Yes, all of that is part of that piece, and that's what we're doing.
Right.
And
life is about trade-offs, yeah.
Yeah. And hopefully on Tuesday, when we try to review that, we should have to know something by that time.
And Anna, I didn't get additional data. Like the only data that I got was from, that I know of. I will research my email. But if you have additional data, because I know how hard those, not to hand me right now, because I can't look at it right now, but if you want to send me an email, okay. If you want to send, yeah, I cannot process anything right now. If you want to send me an email, not you, that has additional data, because there's no high school data on that. I love high school data. If you have high school data,
So are we going to table this? Is that the plan?
We do have a motion, yes.
Yeah, well, I was trying to put it in the form of a motion that we refer this back.
Tracy, is that a second? Or?
Second.
Okay. Any more discussion from the board?
I'm sorry, I do want to say one thing. I spoke with a couple current former administrators and teachers to ask about it, and they did. They reported that they talked a lot about the reflection, and they did feel value similar to a 12 hours of master's training, or and so but all of that is all that's tough and inconclusive, tough to quantify. The one point I wanted to make is just that you mentioned that our current additional compensation for board certification is below other districts. And what that means, part of what that means is that the folks on the list that have, voluntarily gone through that process really have stepped up, in a way that they've really raised their hands and invested in their professional development in a way that's intrinsically motivated, perhaps. And so one of the layers of complication that makes this subject difficult for me is that by increasing the incentive, you make it you create a greater monetary incentive, and there's less of that
intrinsic motivation.
Intrinsic motivation involved. And so I just wonder if there are non-monetary because there's a strong desire. I mean, these are the best of the best teachers, and I think there's a lot of consensus about that. So I just wonder if there are other awards, recognitions, or intrinsic opportunities outside of the monetary.
It's funny, just this discussion has led me to looking at the list. I see a fair number of people there, I think, who have national board certified but not master's degrees. And it might be interesting for discussion, could you substitute it for a master's degree in terms of the payroll? Although I don't know the financial implications of that, they might be pretty significant. But, it's a possibility.
I'm not trying to drag this out, I promise. But just to point out, I don't know if it was made clear last time, that to take the test to get the certification is about $2,500. And so the stipend ends up paying for that. And previously, not anymore for our district, but the state did pay the teachers who had national board certification. And so it's just based off of our free and reduced lunch population that now Fayetteville is removed from that. So now any teachers who certify starting now won't receive that state money, although people who are already certified did. So there's always been a monetary compensation associated with national board, but it was more funded by the state until recent years and legislation that was passed.
And it's only good for 5 years and has to be renewed, and you pay it again?
You do pay again.
Okay, so if you have a master's, you have that the rest of your life. If you have this, you have it for 5 years. You need to consider that too.
I also would say that I think, to me, when the state decided to give more money to the districts, like if you worked in a high poverty school, you could still get the $5,000 or the $10,000. There's even a $10,000. To me, that said they recognize the value of this program, because it's saying we're going to put those, we want to put an importance with those teachers in our very most difficult districts, and we think that's valuable enough, we're going to put the money there. So that just said a lot to me. Even though it took it away from all of the districts, I felt like that was also just saying that they recognize it has a lot of value.
I think the key at this point is just to figure out, let everybody go back and kind of decide, because I don't think that anybody here thinks it's not valuable. I just think that we need to figure out how to address the situation.
And we are having a budget workshop next month, where I think this can be a topic that can be addressed in that workshop, and that would be a big piece of the puzzle that would help us to better understand the implications. So the timing is good, I think, in that way.
So to be clear, you want some data?
I mean, you don't have to give me data. All I'm saying is the data that I have says what I said it says.
Okay.
Yeah.
If I don't have the data you want me to have, you can give it to me.
I don't think there's any command to bring anything other than work with admin and come back with your best
offer.
Yeah, with your best case or with your best proposition.
Okay.
And a lot may depend on the overall fiscal condition of the district. Yeah.
But I definitely appreciate the fact that you took the feedback that we gave you last month and made some adjustments, especially the way that you broke it out, so you didn't have that one big year. I thought that was very helpful. I mean, that makes it a lot more palatable. So I appreciate the work that you've already done.
Okay. We'll try again.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
So we have a motion and a second. A motion and a second. Is there any other discussion from the board on that? Any discussion from the floor? All right.
Justin really wants you to talk about it.
All those in favor to table, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Motion passes, and we have no further business, so we're adjourned.